Boom.
You're doing
All
intro
right.
before.
That's perfect timing. We just started recording. Welcome, everyone, to episode, I don't know what it is, 9, 10, whatever, of the Anonymous Throwdown Podcast. It'll be in the title. I can't keep track.
One of these.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy. Turn on notifications, like the video, comment, do all that fun stuff. And we have a special guest. Evan is here with us. Jake and Dustin are out this week, but Evan comes in off the top rope for this feature appearance yet again. You are you're the only recurring guest on the Anonymous Throwdown Podcast. You've been here twice. We've never had any other guests, and you're so good that we brought you back. So yeah, we're probably going to sub you out for Dustin here in a second. He's undedicated, and yeah, it'll be great. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm
I'm committed to make this as fun as possible. But thank you, honestly, for having me. It's very fun to always be here and talk to you guys.
Yes, of course.
We love you,
So
Evan.
we were just talking about, our personal. I think that with this podcast, we do get really deep into, Batman and Spider-Man and all that fun stuff, which I think is good. But I think it's also good to maybe people will be interested to know more about like our personal lives. So Evan, I'm curious to know what's been going on with you and like school and just how has life been for you under quarantine and all that.
Oh boy, well, social distancing is truly an event to behold while staying inside and doing nothing but playing games all day. It's the best. No, but I've been pretty much just making sure that I'm updated on all the news for Avengers and Spider-Man and anything hype like that to talk about for the channel. And then also trying to just connect with some very interesting developers to see if I could potentially talk to them and interview them for upcoming videos. And
Dude,
also,
keep going. I'm sorry.
I tried. No worries. It's totally understandable. And I'm sweating too. And also just making sure that I am staying up to date with the current classes that I'm taking. If you guys don't know, I'm currently, quote unquote, attending San Francisco City College, Community College of San Francisco, and making sure that I can focus on classes that pertain to marketing, digital media promotion, and overall like internet media skills that could hopefully land me a possible internship or job at one of these companies, maybe Marvel, maybe Sony, who knows? Because Sony is right nearby in San Mateo. The PlayStation headquarters is right there, and I've met them
really?
in person. Yeah, like right next to where San Francisco is. San Mateo is just a little bit further down, and then their headquarters is right there, PlayStation HQ, where they had this big white spider promo thing when Spider-Man PS4 came out and Death Stranding and Days Gone, like all the cool promo stuff. It's right here in San Mateo, like it's super close by, so it's super convenient for me if I'm able to do that. Or Crystal Dynamics, who's working on Avengers, who's actually literally in San Francisco, like they're a local company, so it's super cool. And I've met all the people there, and they're super kind and awesome. But my goal is to either try and continue down that path and hopefully see if I can apply myself to those companies or any company in the entertainment industry that may need someone whose specialty is in community management or promotional material or marketing, something like that. That's what I kind of specialize in. And if that would apply to something like that, that'd be great. If not,
you know what I was just gonna say? I think you would be perfect. This is not a dig at James Stevenson, the current community director at Insomniac, but I think you would be perfect for that job.
Ooh, well,
you would be really good at any community manager, whether it be Avengers Project or Insomniac. I think you'd be really good in that role. So that's
coming from Slick himself. Thank you very much.
Am I wrong? Now, but I personally think that Salvage would be my favorite community manager because people would be like, oh, I hate this feature. No, people would be like, I hate this feature in this new game, and Salvage would be like, shut up, you little bitch, fuck you.
Shutting everything down.
Dude, I would shut down so much hate for like any particular game. I would be community.
Salvo would just take no shit, and it would be so funny. And then Evan is like the exact opposite. He'd be like the good community manager. He'd be like, yeah, I understand your opinions, but I'm super excited, blah blah blah. And then Salvage would just be like, yeah, this game kind of blows, but I have to promote it, so whatever.
Marcel will team up good cop, bad cop style for the community managers.
Exactly.
Evan's on the Marvel side. I'm on the DC side. So.
Yes.
Oh, no, I wonder.
What was that?
will bleed
No.
into everything.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there are downsides to doing that job because you're in this position, Evan, where you can say whatever you want to say. You know, you could be critical of the Avengers game, you can praise Insomniac however much you want to do, and yeah, you'll get pushback and whatnot. But when you're the community manager, you can't really be critical of anything.
Right.
And not only that, you know what happens in the game, like you know the story because you work in the studio, so you see like all the behind the scenes stuff. You've already played the game years before it comes out. So
Right.
I wonder if it kind of ruins it in a sense too, because that hype of like it's still very exciting when the game is coming out. When you're the community manager of Insomniac and you're launching a new game, that's super exciting. But it's almost on another level when you're a fan and you don't know what happens in the game. It kind of ruins that in a sense, right? So there are pros and cons to
For
both,
sure.
you know.
Because that's the whole thing, is that if you're a fan on the outside looking in, then that means that you may get some insight from the developers, like, oh, did you hear? Like, oh, you're gonna have Hawkeye in the game. Shock, right? Wow, didn't see that coming. Oh, that's a surprise. So when you're in the development team, you're seeing all this being made and seeing all this go into fruition and how the final project is becoming, what the final version of everything will entail. And that's cool because you're working on the game. You're seeing it be made for the inside perspective of a developer's standpoint. But as a fan, you're like, well, wait, I didn't want to be spoiled by Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man PS4. I didn't know
Right.
that Harry was going to have the symbiote by the end of the game. That was all a surprise. So when they sent me the early copy of the game to review it, it was for a review for sure, but also because they wanted to just show how much they see the support coming from the Spidey Squad and everyone, how much
Right.
that meant to the development team. So when they see that and then they provide us with the Spidey Squad Easter egg or early copies or shout outs or whatever it just is them giving back to the community because they genuinely care. So as a fan, it's like, oh my God, like I really respect this product or this game or these developers. But then at the same time, like if you do genuinely care, then you also want to be truthful to your opinion if you may not like it as much than what you would like to prefer it to see it become. So like with Avengers, I'm obviously not as excited for it as how I am for Miles Morales, but it's Marvel, so I will still be interested nonetheless. But my overall excitement and engagement as a fan versus being a developer or a community manager would be different. So say, for example, if I was a intern at Crystal Dynamics helping Andy Wong and the community team promote Avengers, it's like, well, cool. You have the Avengers, you have co-op, you have Warzones, you have single player, you have all these cool emotes, you have Fortnite, all exciting. So you get all this stuff and you can promote that further to engage the community. And that's part of the business of being part of the social media team or marketing team. And I even got to interview Andy Wong specifically about these subjects, which is super cool, as part of a project for my course online for San Francisco City College, which it all connects, which is awesome. But as a fan and interviewing the developers as a fan, not being part of the team, you're still getting that insight and learning exactly how the ins and outs of their operations work when making these types of games, like what goes into receiving fan feedback, what goes into applying said feedback when making the game, what goes into manufacturing it from a community standpoint versus the developer standpoint or animator standpoint or designer standpoint, all this. So you know how each cog works in the system. You see how each role is affected by everyone else. It's a unit as a team. Like they work on it together. And if one area is faulty, then the whole thing kind of comes crumbling down. But that's why they're so persistent with trying to make these games and these experiences as much dedicated as they possibly can. And that's a great thing to see, especially when they're handling properties like Spider-Man or Avengers or DC or Marvel. So that's really cool to see that they are themselves fans working on games for other fans. And that's the best part about it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's hard to be like a developer sometimes when you're looking at it. Like the cons definitely outweigh being a fan that's just receiving all the time and not like, putting out that product. Because I mean, if I was like a community manager or director and I didn't like what I saw in my game, I would be like, it would kind of suck to be that type of community director because then you have really no control over the game and you are getting these opinions that you agree with, but you always have to support that game. It's like, it's kind of fun to be like in that position. I don't think I could ever do that. I would always want to be like a fan of a game instead of, making one.
Yeah, and I think
So-
it's great for Evan because Evan, I think you're going to the trajectory of your career, the way it's looking is that you're going to be on both sides of that coin, and later in life, you're probably going to be on the developer side, and as a community manager in the marketing department for these studios or what have you. And at this point, you are now on the consumer side, which I think is good to experience both of those things. And if you had just went into, let's say, your first job out of high school was community director at Insomniac. Of course you would love it, but then you're in this precarious position where you couldn't have that amazing experience that you did in 2017 and 2016 as leading this fan community. And you are kind of still leading a fan community, but it's not really the same because like you're being paid to lead it and it's not like as authentic. You're a genuine, authentic leader of the Spider-Man community on Twitter and on YouTube. Whereas if you're being paid to do that job by a company, it's like
Right.
people don't really look up to you in the same way because it's like, oh, this is your job.
It doesn't feel genuine enough. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels like it's, which I don't want to try and diss anyone on the,
Of course, yeah.
Dynamics cares, Marvel cares. They all care because it's these characters and we love them. But when you see the differences between how they promoted and actually just generally discussed how they were working on Spider-Man versus Avengers. Avengers seems like it's kind of manufactured, not like it's like a product of just conception of what we've seen from the MCU into video game form versus what Spider-Man was, which was genuine, which was honest, which was truthful.
That's what I kind
their
of noticed.
version of the character was into their own unique design and universe. Whereas this, it's like, yes, it's our Avengers. It's through the crystal lens, what they're saying. It's their own thing. But when you see that, it doesn't come off across to me personally as, yes, it's our Avengers, because they use things like, this is an Avengers level threat or the Avengers Initiative. And all this stuff that, of course, what does that remind you of? Oh, yes, the very successful and popular movie franchises. So instead of making it, this is clearly their own thing, it seems like, well, this is their own thing, but also with a lot of influence, of course, from the films. And now that could not necessarily be a bad thing. It could be really great if they try and individualize it and make it original enough from the source material, from the comics, films, and shows into their own thing. But instead, it just kind of feels like a product of manufacturing from the films and what the main audiences know from that into this new format while trying to bleed in stuff from the comics. And as a community manager, when you try and promote that, it has to come off as, actually genuine enough and not just trying to bank off of something that already exists. Like, I
there's
never
a
heard
difference.
once any of the developers from Insomniac reference directly the Raimi films or the Andrew Garfield movies for Spider-Man. I never once heard them talk about, we're going to use directly these scenes from the movie into the game. Remember those moments? This will be in Spider-Man PS4. Never once heard them do that. But for Avengers, like, yeah, we always, the movies, and directly coming from the combat designer of the game who previously worked on God of War, which kind of concerns me a bit. He said directly that the combat that they're making for Avengers, they looked at the movesets of each character from the films first and used that as the blueprint for making the new versions of these characters in the game from the ground up. So instead of just making it from scratch, they usually saw, oh, well, what do they fight like in the films? What do they do in the films? Well, let's translate that into the game. And I don't know if that'll kind of be presented well. It could be, but to me personally, they're obviously banking more on what's the most popular into this new version. I don't know.
I like that. I noticed how how they actually got like the most talented voice actors like Troy Baker and Nolan North to like voice them, all of the most popular characters like Hulk and Iron Man, and it just seems like, yeah, it does seem more manufactured than Spider-Man, which was made with like Insomniac was like, okay, we want Spider-Man. It seems like Crystal Dynamics was like, okay, we want you to have Avengers. They weren't like choosing what they wanted, which is, it could be a part of that, but I mean, I don't know if they were given a choice to make Avengers or not, or if they were like,
I think there's a difference between saying, oh, it would be cool to make an Avengers game, and being like, this game is my dream game to make. And when you look at Rocksteady, you look at Insomniac, it is very clear that making a Batman game is their dream game. They say that their dream game is Superman, but obviously they had so much love for Batman, and they really, really love that character. They're such huge fans of the character, and it's like, that's my dream to make that game. And when it's your dream to make that game, you want to make it perfect because you know what you want and you're very passionate about it. When you are working at a studio and then the higher ups say, "Oh, we're making an Avengers game," you're like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, I think that's the way they look at it more. I could be wrong, and I don't know any of the top people, or I don't know how the game came to fruition or what the people think. That's just kind of my general vibe, is that there are games that are, like you said, more corporate, more manufactured. Just like, oh, you work on Call of Duty, and we make a new Call of Duty every 3 years, and they're really good, and they're fun, and I like Call of Duty. Whereas, like, I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite character in the world. I want to make the best video game ever made. And that's kind of the vibe I get from, like, a Rocksteady and Insomniac versus other studios.
Precisely. And that's what's crazy, is because you hear people like who are consistently active on social media and just in these interviews in general, just promoting it. The creative director, Brian Intihar, with Rocksteady, Sefton Hill, they go out and say what Batman means to them, what Spider-Man means to them. And Avengers, you see like, well, I've seen all the films. I love them. Like, okay. And
like,
the
cool, me too.
director himself, Sean Eskai, and even more so, I brought this point up a bit, but it's still very important, is that the president of Square Enix, who's the publisher of Avengers, Yosuke Matsuda, said Avengers will outperform both Spider-Man PS4 and the Arkham games entirety, the whole series. So that's a lot to go off of, and that's a lot of expectations to build up on. But they're also trying to make it out like this will be the most expansive, most innovative, most never before seen project ever done, because the creative director of the game, Sean Eskai, has said that this is a brand new, never before seen organism that you will never experience in any type of game ever. And yet the people who played it at these demo booths have said that it's almost exactly like Anthem or Destiny. And I don't know what made him think that it's a brand new thing when everyone who's tested it has said otherwise. And then one of these online digital news reporters, these game journalists, Imran Khan, who's part of Kind of Funny Games, I have his tweet here. He said after I think the first War Table came out, he said that the overall impressions that play testers got when playing Marvel's Avengers for the first time felt incredibly boring. Nothing that was shown in the newest War Table has seemed like that they have improved upon that in any way. And now the second War Table came out, and now everyone's excited for it, I guess, because of the beta, and they can actually try it for themselves, which is going to be the most important thing, is seeing where people think about the game so far, where they stand on it, how it'll improve, hopefully later on. What their promises are is that we'll add on new stuff for years to come, added content, new heroes, new regions for free, but with cosmetic attires and stuff, with microtransactions will have to be paid for. So it's a whole thing. Again, it could very well be a truly enjoyable game. Could possibly, if we believe what their statements are, is that could be better than the Spider-Man game. It could be better than Batman if done right. Possibly, but with everything they've shown so far, and there's not a lot to give me enough confidence to think so. It'll be fun to try out, but it's not giving me like hype levels of excitement. It's like, I'll see where it goes. I'll see what the result is, but I'm not like, let's do this. Let's go. I'm down to clown.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I have the same exact hype for this as I did for like Anthem, except now my hype's a little bit more because we have the beta. But like for Anthem, this is how it felt. It was just like the first trailer came out. Wow, okay, this looks pretty good. It's all right. And then like nothing gets shown, and whatever is shown doesn't look like it's actually going to be what the final product is. But what they're showing now is like, it seems like, I mean, it's almost a month away, which is crazy to even think about. I completely forgot that it came out in September, and now it's August. So that kind of shocked me. But I feel like what we're seeing now is a little bit more of the final product. It's kind of getting me a little bit more hyped, but the beta really is a make or break thing for a lot of people, including me. I mean, if it is incredibly boring, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to like drop $60 on it immediately. I might just, I mean, it's all about what players are going to be expecting, and what they're going to be expecting is, a full-on Avengers game. And have we seen like proper co-op yet? I mean, was that at the last? I didn't see like the War Table or like all of the War Table. Did we see like
they showed like snippets of it
Yeah.
in action, just them kind of doing like I guess a couple team takedowns, and you see them kind of running around off screen and stuff like the person who's playing as Iron Man's here, and then Hulk's kind of running on the lower screen. You've seen bits of it, but not like a full mission played out. Exactly. That's the thing, is that they're showing it is what they're trying to get you at, right? Is exactly they're showing bits of it. That's what the entirety of it. Whereas they showed a full single player mission, but then even that kind of looked a bit rough around the edges, and the game was super close to being out. And then now with a month left, and the good thing is that you can try it for yourself. We'll all be playing the beta together. I'm excited to play with you guys and all the audience members out there. Of course, that's going to be half the fun of this whole game, is playing with friends, of course. But if it doesn't encapsulate you enough to draw you in with that gameplay loop, with all these characters, with all the variety of upgrades that they're claiming you'll be able to unlock at launch, and then say, well, it'll be fixed down the line when all these other characters are added. No, they have to get it right day one, and that's what I hope they can do. And the great thing is, like what you were saying, Marcel, is that the beta will be the make or break factor, because you can pre-order the game, download the beta, play the beta, but you don't have to buy the game afterwards. You can cancel your pre-order after you finish playing the beta and say, you know what, that was fun, but not really for me, or no, I didn't like that too much, I won't spend my money, or you know what, that was hype, I'm going to buy the game and the collector's edition and all this stuff. So it'll be truly a huge, huge factor in terms of how successful the game will be at launch. And I hope it delivers.
Well, here's the thing. Going back to the mention of that individual that works at Square Enix bragging about the sales potential, kind of like what you're saying. Notice what they're bragging about. They're not saying we're going to make the best superhero video game of all time. What they're saying is we're going to make the most highest selling video game of all time, which is totally different than making the best video game of all time. They didn't say our game is going to be better than Arkham City and Spider-Man PS4. They said it's going to sell more. And yeah, Transformers, they gross over $1 billion. They're shit movies. Who cares how much it sells? That means nothing. We know that an Avengers game is going to sell. You can literally put a copy of like Microsoft 95 in an Avengers case, and it would sell 100,000 copies. And because it has Avengers on the case, like that's obviously going to sell. And he might be right about that, but that's not even anything to brag about. All that means is that you're making an Avengers game, and this IP is something that a lot of people care about. Moreover, I think that with the beta, I am excited. The gameplay looks good. I think it's just going to be fun. Like, I don't know, being able to play with you guys too over the weekend. Like, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm curious to know how it plays. I don't know a lot about how the gameplay is going to work. They haven't shown a whole lot, but I'm very excited to play it, and it might be really good. And it could also be a situation like Sea of Thieves. If you remember, Sea of Thieves launched, and it was a notable disaster, and everyone said it was terrible, and people were excited for it, but then it was a big flop. But now it's actually a good game, and it's something that a lot of people play because they spent years and years improving it. The same went for Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege was also a huge failure at launch, and now it's a game that is very competitive. A lot of people love. I play it still to this day, even though it came out many, many years ago. What's up?
You know, one thing that's also, I mean, one of the games that you can also mention is Battlefront 2, which I think might be more comparable to this with the microtransactions. I mean, I don't think we're going to get like crazy, locked, items locked behind this shit. But like the fact that all of the skins are like locked behind it, and they give us like the worst default skins like of any game ever. Like it's like they're trying. They know how much money that they're going to make off of those skins, especially after like Fortnite and all that shit. Like people are buying Captain America skins and Batman skins on Fortnite. You think they're not going to buy some cool skins on the Avengers game? So they're going to take a lot of kids' money is what I'm trying to say. Like those kids are like, yeah, I want the movie Iron Man. I want the Captain America from the Nazi Captain America. Like, oh, there goes mom's $300 off of 500 skins from 30 different characters that we got in a span of 5 years. It's like, it's going to be, no one's going to have everything in this game. And that's it's going to feel weird. But like, if they do keep giving out content, if it's not like Anthem, where they say they're going to give us years of content, they give us one mission after 3 months of the game's launch, and then nothing happens. They literally had like Anthem had a plan, and it's it's comparable to what the Avengers is doing, where they give us free content throughout years and years and years and years. But with Anthem, they literally released the first thing that flopped, and then they just completely abandoned all their plans, and they're not even doing anything. I don't think. I mean, the game is 1,000% dead. And I feel like, with the Avengers, there's a lot of leeway there to add characters and to add stories and to add villains. Because with Anthem, that was a new IP. What world are you building there? What can you really, invest people with? But with this, you can go oh, Ultron just came back. You have to fight Ultron, and with Doctor Strange is a new character. And if the game play isn't the best, but the story is pretty good, and the gameplay loop is at least interesting enough to keep people, playing with their friends, then it could be a very successful game over the span of a few years, like Battlefront 2 and Sea of Thieves and any other game. Like even Battlefield 4 has a large player base just because it has a lot of fan support and server support, and they just consistently update the game. So if they do that with this, I can see the game outselling Spider-Man in Arkham and in any other superhero game, but it would be 5 years down the road. It wouldn't be immediately.
Right.
So it might have a point there, and the game might be good, it might be bad, but I mean, it depends. I don't know. They have to really update it constantly.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that this is the type of game where I get a lot of flack for just even saying I'm not excited for it from the majority of my audience members. And I'm a massive Marvel fan. I mean, not just Spider-Man, but just all comics in general, but mainly Marvel is my go-to. And I love these characters, but it's just because we all want the best game possible. That's why I'm personally being critical about it. And we're all kind of skeptical about what the final product could be until we play it for ourselves. And that's why I think that this is the type of game where it's so ambitious. It's so out there, different from your standard single-player AAA Batman or Spider-Man game that's trying to be the next big thing. That's what they're trying to do, with added content, with new stories, new missions, new players to, heroes to unlock, new characters to explore and upgrade through, and new areas to play with your friends. And that'll be a huge drawing point. It could be great for sure, but we won't know until we play it all in context for ourselves. And the story is different enough from the MCU. If the gameplay is engaging enough to continuously loop through, looting, shooting, grinding for gear, earning new suits, unlocking chests, doing raids, all this stuff. So that's the type of game it is. And if it's engaging for Marvel fans with the universe of Marvel, sure, like you said, it's true though. Kids will be begging their parents to purchase new skins to play with their friends. Oh my God, I gotta get the MCU suits, or oh my God, I gotta get this comic suit. Let me play as Iron Man. And oh, they just added Black Panther. Let me play as him. So I could see them playing it for long periods of time because of the Marvel factor, But strip that away. That's my concern. What is there underneath that skin of Marvel that truly is engaging enough to play? Right. So it has the Destiny layout with Anthem mechanics and Marvel heroes to play with. When thinking that through, I don't know if the final product will be all that good. But if executed thoroughly and detailed, because what they're clearly showing is that this won't be in the sense of Anthem where it'll be dead at launch, because they're claiming there will be 50 enemy types, 80 Warzone missions, tons of single-player story missions to play through, new heroes added for free, so you don't have to worry about wasting your money on anything. How frequent that will be, that's a big problem. We don't know when exactly they'll release these heroes throughout the year, whether or not it'll be a month, 2 months, each new few months, a year, a week. We don't know the schedule, and that's concerning, because if it is a monthly basis, then that's fine. But if it's oh, the game isn't well received at launch, so we got to kind of fix a few things and then adjust it now for the current content users playing it. And that's why, if you've seen online, they're trying to kind of spice up the excitement, because that's where I kind of felt a little bit disjointed. What I was saying earlier about the marketing is that it felt honest and passionate from Insomniac and Marvel with Spider-Man. This is our Spider-Man game. This is our universe. This is what we're doing for the character. And they didn't rely on anything other than their own ingenuity and development to promote the game as best as possible. The story missions, the E3 demos, all that with the trailers and the Game Informer coverage, all this stuff. And then Avengers, they second War Table presentation, which kind of threw me off, not because I wasn't featured in it, but they showed all these YouTubers' reactions at the beginning. If you notice, they showed the same few, 3 YouTubers loving the game initially, and notice how they didn't use any of the main people who were criticizing it after the first presentation. Interesting. So I don't know.
Okay, that's another question I have for you.
standard PR front, you know, like, well, if these content creators, you know, like it, then it must be good, right? So
Well, but that's their whole that for some creators, that's their play, is basically love everything. And it's so funny because people accuse you of doing this, even though that's clearly and self-evidently not true. But
Yeah.
some people, basically their play is, I'm going to love everything. I'm going to cozy up to these companies, love everything that they do, be super enthusiastic, just be like, hey guys, so yeah, this game looks amazing, and like, oh my god, I can't
Fingers off.
wait. And then the trailer comes out, and then they're like, oh my god, it's Iron Man. And then they like faint on camera, they start crying, and it's like, what are you like, were you not expecting this? Like, or I don't know, like what's
Exactly.
blowing your mind about this trailer? I don't understand. So anyway, it's very, very interesting, very interesting. And of course, I'm saying this, we all know that I'm gonna cry when I watch the Batman trailer. So I'm the biggest
I
shill of
can't
all.
wait for that though. That
Here's
one's
my
gonna be
question.
beautiful.
Here's my question. Do you think that your relationship with, like, because you've had a great relationship with Insomniac, do you think that your relationship with Square Enix has been hurt in any way because you've had some things that you've criticized about it?
See, I don't know. That's the thing, but I've never outright said anything negative towards the people directly involved because I respect them for making this product because it's their vision and I can't do anything about it because that's the game they're making, which is fine. And that's the thing, is that I respect each and every single one of these developers working on the game, but I can still be critical about the project they're working on since we all deeply care. We want this game, Slickmoff, Salvage, me, Irongen, all these people, we want it to be hype. We want it to be awesome because it's Avengers. We want to be excited for
Right.
any upcoming superhero game because we love these characters, and that's the thing. But if I don't genuinely feel passionate enough with what the footage is that I'm currently viewing, then I have to say that because that's how I feel. It's not just trying to suck up to them to get a code. Like, no, if I genuinely have a problem with it, then I will make that clear. And in my videos, I've never once said, like, this is true, which the comments are making it out like, this is the worst piece of shit, terrible thing I've ever seen in my entire life. No, like, I love these characters, but the game itself is the problem at hand. I can't fully endorse or support a thing that I do not have faith in as of right now. And that's what I currently feel with Avengers. But I respect and fully support all the developers working on this game. And I've interviewed them in person myself, like for not just Insomniac, but with Square Enix, you know, with Crystal Dynamics, the main developer behind it is Andy Wong, who's the community and social media manager, who's amazing. He's super kind-hearted. And the other creative director of the game, Noah Hughes, who I got to talk to at last year's E3. And they're incredible. They genuinely care about these characters. They care about the fan base, and they care about making a good game. And that's all I can ask for in any developer working on any project. But if the result is less than adequate for my personal taste, then I have to make that clear. And whenever I talk about it, I'm always level-headed and rational and giving, hopefully, critical enough feedback to try and make better adjustments to the final product that will benefit them in the long run. But if the current status of it is not really doing it for me, then I have to try and just state that to them in a concise, straightforward way that is respectful to what their work is, but also showing that I'm still hopefully supporting them as best possible while also being strict enough with the results of the footage that we're seeing. So it's all about levelly showcasing both your excitement and your criticisms in an equal manner. And that's what they respect the most as developers. That's what they want in order to make a better game. You know, like even Brian Intihar himself asked me directly at E3 2018, what do you have to say about the game? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, oh, let me know, because I only have like a few more weeks to make the game until it's gone gold. So, holy crap. So he's asking directly my opinion. So I have to tell him, like, I love it, but I also think that they could fix a couple things because they're.
You told him that?
Yeah, like after I interviewed him for the channel, he asked me afterwards, like, so what do you think about the demo you played? And I'm like, well, I love literally everything. This is the best Spider-Man game I've ever played, but maybe make him a bit faster when he's sprinting, or I saw a couple glitches here and there when he clipped through like a hot dog stand or a car or something. But obviously they know that, because it's weird, because when you have something that you think that they should fix, they probably already know before you even have to tell them, because they're working on the game. So they would know, oh yeah, we'll fix that ourselves, or yeah, we'll adjust that here and there. So no matter if it's Spider-Man, Batman, Avengers, whatever, you have to be just honest with the developers, and they will respect you for that. And that is all you can do in these times when you're trying to give feedback for something you care about, especially when it relates to these characters.
No, I agree. The one thing I was going to contest is I wonder if they always know what they do and do not need to fix. Like, the reason he asked you is because he genuinely thinks that the game is in the best state that he knows, but he is not aware of what other people might say. For instance, with Arkham Knight, it was very, very obvious that Sefton Hill and the entire team at Rocksteady thought the Batmobile was going to be the best part of the game. And the reason they included it so much is because they genuinely thought that doing puzzles with the Batmobile would be fun. They thought that Bat Tank's shit was going to be fun. And of course, they were wrong. But they really didn't know. Like, the reason they included that is because they really thought that we were going to love it, and we just didn't. So I think that's why the feedback is valuable to him, because they're in a bubble when they're developing the game of what they think is cool in the office. But then, if I remember, also in the game, one of the biggest piece of feedback from the demo and all that is that Spidey was swinging too slow and running too slow, as you said. And if I recall, they upped the speed on both of those things for the web swinging and running, right?
Yeah, directly from it. So I talked to Brian at E3 2018 when the demo went public for the audiences to try out in person for themselves.
Yeah.
That specific criticism was given in 2017. When they first showed the game with the field gameplay, and then they saw fan feedback online and comments saying it looks a bit janky and a bit too slow when he's swinging. They thought that, and then they took that into consideration and then up the speed.
That was the Mr. Negative demo, right?
Yeah.
2017. Yeah.
Gets hit with a crane.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they showed the web slinging.
2018. Then they started to kind of unravel a little bit more and then say, oh, yeah, we totally took all that into consideration, fixed that, added some new moves when swinging. Air tricks was also a thing, too, which I'm actually very interested in for more, adding on to that mechanic in the Miles Morales or the sequel, is that when you, press triangle and circle in Spider-Man PS4 in midair, you can do an air trick. They said they add that late in development because they didn't have that actually in the swinging. So that's directly as a result from fan feedback or just, fan input from what they would like to see for the traversal. And then they put that in last minute for the air tricks, and yet it still looks great when swinging around the city and pulling off the front flips and back flips, twists, turns, all that. And that's very, very cool from Insomniac's part to see how much valid criticisms and input are coming from the community. And clearly they show that with the Spidey Squad. They genuinely care about the honest fans and the community that we've all built together, not just me, but us, you, Kobe, and Marcel, and everyone together as fans coming together, sharing our excitement for these characters. They all love that. And that's shown apparently thoroughly with the games that they make and the product that's on retail shelves right now and the final game and everything that they've made in development. That's a really cool thing to see, especially for characters that matter this much to us. So if that also happens with Avengers and the next Batman game too, that would be extremely cool to see. Gotham Knights Easter egg, please.
Yeah. We need it just like the Spider Squad one. It would be perfect. We'll be mobsters.
Yes.
I think they hate us, though.
What are you talking about? Dude, without us, nobody would even know who the heck those... I mean, like, most of those developers, nobody had, like, traction on them.
I know. That's true.
I think we even have a name to their game.
I think it might get better once the game gets announced. You know what I honestly think? I think that they got in trouble for what they were doing on Twitter. Like they were trying to engage with us more, and then it all stopped. And I think that they got reprimanded from the higher ups for what they were doing. And maybe it was also from us because we were like false hype. And I was like, that's kind of stupid. I probably have said that a couple times in the past. Where like their tweets like led us on, which is kind of true, but also. I don't know.
Ways, I feel like from November to March is that's when I remember it being the most active from those developers. And then once March hit, everything stopped until September when they released the first teaser image. So, I mean, we had the first thing that popped everything off was that, the Owls image. And I was like, oh,
right.
that was just some random, like I'd never even seen that developer before. It's just like some random developer, and then they started teasing it more and more, and everybody thought it was going to be at the Game Awards, and people thought it was going to be at a gamers developing convention thing. the GDC, I think that what it is.
Yeah, I went
and
there. I
yeah.
attended that, and still a no-show, and it was super disappointing.
Osama Dorius was there, and he was one of the developers on that game. And I mean, they were talking about how he just got taken off of that project and was moved to a second project during all of this. It was just like there's so much, and I was back in 2018. It is 2020. That's horrible. That's horrible.
It's tough for me to read because I'm followed by a number of them, but then there have been a couple instances where where one or two of them would just like unfollow me for what I perceive to be no reason. I'm like, that's interesting. But I think it might all change once the game is announced and it's kind of clear that the Gotham Knights are like the leaders of this community in the same way that hopefully the Spidey Squad was, and then they can't really almost ignore it. And also they stole our name for the game, which is also interesting. Hashtag lawsuit? What up? Like, how about this? There's going to be a Gotham Knights game Easter egg in our website because we started it first. So
hey, there it is.
You know, I think it's very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how it all pans out with them, and if the fan fervor is as high as you would think that it would be for a Batman game. I have a lot of hope for it. I'm very, very excited. And if this game really does get announced on August 22nd, which it really looks like it's happening, like it really. There have been things with like E3 and there have been events where we got our hopes up, but this is the first time where it's actually like, okay, WB announced an event and it would literally, the chances that it's not there are like infinitesimally small. It's basically impossible. We pretty much know with 99% certainty the game will be there. I'm willing to say like 100%. Insiders have confirmed it. They've gone quiet on Twitter. W Montreal changed their Twitter AVI recently. They're shutting down WB Games Canada. They're clearly making a concise marketing push with consolidating their Twitter accounts, changing their logos, and they actually, DC for the first time has actually announced their own event, which they haven't done in years. Typically, it's like, oh yeah, we'll be at E3. We might show some shit. We'll see. But now they're actually setting up this event. And it's going to be revealed on August 22nd. It's literally 20 days away. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. And then I think we're going to have a really good year, like all as YouTubers, because not only that, then Marvel's Avengers comes out very soon, comes out next month. We are going to be playing that. We're going to be playing that a week from today. We're going to be playing that game. And then the game comes out a month later, and then we're going to be playing Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man PS5, Miles Morales. Now, here's a question. Evan, is it going to be a PS5 exclusive, Miles Morales? Do we know?
It hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but literally all the hashtags are hashtag Miles Morales PS5, hashtag Spider-Man PS5. So even though, weirdly enough, they haven't confirmed it's exclusive on PS5, I'm pretty darn sure it will be. I just can't not seeing it be. And a multi-platform game, it has to be a PS5 exclusive.
It's good for marketing and it's good for the PS5 too, because everybody, people I know bought the PS4 just to play the Spider-Man game, like literally just to play that game. And if they're gonna do this again, plus they might remaster Spider-Man PS4, then it gives more reason for people that haven't bought the PS4 yet for Spider-Man to buy the PS5 for Spider-Man remastered in Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Exactly.
Plus all the other exclusive stuff.
The other thing about that is you've got to keep in mind that Sony loses money with every console they sell. So Sony loses money, Microsoft loses money. Every sale of the PS5 is going to be a net loss for Sony. And, we think like, there's this gigantic company, they're very lucrative. And I'm not saying they're not lucrative, but that is something that's very interesting that most people don't consider. And each sale, because is at a loss, but that doesn't even consider like the marketing and all those costs that go into it. So my point being is that they make their money in this industry through those console exclusives, through people being like, okay, well, I'm going to get a PS5 just to play Miles Morales. And then when I get that PS5, then I'm going to buy Uncharted and Last of Us and all of these other games. And then that is a profitable business model for them. But and it's kind of like pie in the sky for Microsoft to be like, well, we're going to let everyone play on Xbox One. It's like, well, then no one's going to buy your new console. And that's the reason that they do have these exclusives, is because they don't make money on the sale. So they've got to make their money up with the games on the back end. So
for sure. And that's literally exactly the point. For how could one game on one platform be the highest selling superhero game of all time? Well, because it's Spider-Man, but also the fact that it's a good game is what sold it, mainly is because it's actually really well made. Insomniac nailed the traversal. Story was engaging. Swinging felt amazing. Graphics were insane. Everything running on the PlayStation 4 felt smooth for having it be made exclusively on one platform. And because of that, surprise, surprise, Sony bought Insomniac. So now they're only made, to make PlayStation games, which also adds to the fact that Miles Morales is a PS5 launch title and a PS5 most likely exclusive. It could also be on the PS4, what some people are making out to be. It'll be on PlayStation no matter what, whether that be 4 or 5, but it's mainly going to be a PS5 exclusive. But if the game is made well enough, it will sell well. And that's why if it was like a Batman Xbox exclusive, they don't really have enough of a levity, enough of a strength to their brand that would engage people to go out and buy an Xbox purely for the sake of Batman, just like how they did with Spider-Man for PlayStation. If, though, the game is actually hype, it looks good, it plays well, and it's made with passion, then that could turn the tide. And like, you know what? For sure, all the hardcore DC fans are going to go out and buy an Xbox just to play Batman. But will the quality of the game, if it is an Xbox exclusive, be on the same par as Spider-Man or Miles Morales? We don't know. But if done properly, and just, if they even have enough faith in the product, if it is an Xbox exclusive, then that will easily have a larger market input for people to go out and buy an Xbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Microsoft is going to do that yet. And even if they do buy WB, I mean, it seems like EA might be doing that now. So who knows what's going to be going on. If EA does that, it's going to be a complete different story. But,
I'm scared.
If Microsoft comes in and swoops them, I think that would be a good decision for them. I don't think like the new Batman game would be an Xbox exclusive right now. I feel like whatever WB Games is working on next, their second project probably will be, if they do get bought out by them. And then Rocksteady, same thing with them, they'll be completely Xbox exclusive. I think that'll be better for Xbox though, because either way, the Batman gaming brand has been completely, changed. It's you don't really expect low quality Batman games anymore, unless it's like Lego or whatever. And Rocksteady, if they come out and they're exclusive to Microsoft, then of course that's just another win for them. I think that it would be a really good pull for Microsoft to do that for them, because either way, Spider-Man, that's a big brand, but so is Batman. I mean, that'd be great competition. It would make a lot of sense. But who knows?
Just don't let EA touch them, please.
Yes,
that's
please.
all I ask for.
Oh, God.
I would choose an
Squad.
Xbox exclusive Batman game over a multi-platform EA published / developed Batman game.
Well, imagine an EA Suicide Squad game where every character has to be, purchased for about $5 each. You want Harley Quinn? $7. You want Joker? No, that's $10, buddy. That's $10.
Damn.
You can have King Shark for like $2.
See, Evan, I kind of agree with the way you're thinking about this, because as I mentioned, the business model for these companies is to make money with exclusives on the back end. They lose money on console sales. They make their money up with PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Live and these other things. They really want to get you into the ecosystem. And I think that because of that, when you have the investment of someone like EA, they're just selling games. They spent X amount of money on the game. They want to make the most amount of return possible to maximize their profit. That's their model. With PlayStation and Xbox, when they have an exclusive studio like The Last of Us 2, like Spider-Man PS4, like Batman if it were an Xbox exclusive, that game being good is not just they want to make money and sell as many games as possible. It's also like a brand lift for the entire Xbox ecosystem. So they're going to have more investment because it is a driver of console sales. And when they drive console sales, then that makes the money on Xbox Live. It makes the money on all these other things. And, their movie streaming and all these things. So their incentive to make a good Batman game is way higher than EA's, even though they both own the company. And it seems like, they both have an incentive to make money. Actually, the potential ROI for Microsoft when owning it is much higher. So therefore, they have a higher incentive to make the game the best, game ever made, basically. And they have more incentive to maximize the quality.
Exactly. And it all depends on how that brand, like you said, could carry the property further. I mean, people a lot like Spider-Man, why did it do so well in the first place? Well, it could have been like another random Spider-Man game multi-platform. What if it was on all consoles? And that could easily be also a high-selling game for sure. But one of the reasons why people were so anticipating this game is because it was published by Sony. It was developed by Insomniac. All these high-quality studios, these name brand companies that people are aware of. Oh, Ratchet and Clank, Sunset Overdrive, Spyro the Dragon, that's Insomniac. Oh, Sony, Uncharted, Last of Us, Infamous, all these huge titles, and they're backing it, manufacturing together. What? A Spider-Man game. So holy crap, the level of quality that could have could be off the charts, and it was. And that's why it sold consoles, it sold collector's editions, it sold high special edition copies, it sold digitally, insane numbers. The first 3 days, it was like 3.3 million copies physically, just physically. And then by the end of the year of 2018 or 2019, I think, one of them, it was the, highestly, still in the top charts of all PS4 sales. And the DLC was just coming out for the game as well, the final chapters of the DLC expansion. Yeah. And then even more so in the year with 2019, they still added content. They added the suits for free with the Fantastic Four suits and the Far From Home suits to further engage the audience in the game. And then they had the PS Plus sale, which also incentivized the PlayStation community to go and buy the game for a discounted price if they hadn't already. So all these factors come in, and this brand recognition is super important. So that's what they're known for, and that's what caught the general consumer's attention, is because the level of quality that all these companies have and how the product itself was looking due to that quality. Whereas Xbox, well, they're known for Crackdown, Halo, Gears of War. So all these titles, which are interesting, they don't, like you said in your previous videos, though, they can't level to Last of Us. They can't level.
The only game on the Xbox that I ever considered buying an Xbox for was Cuphead. You guys remember that game? That's the only game where I was just like, man, I really want an Xbox.
Yeah.
I never looked at Gears of War or Halo, because there's shooters out there that I could play that are just better than them. Like Rainbow Six Siege, Call of Duty, Battlefield. I mean, why would I want to go play Gears of War? Like, what's pulling me into buying an Xbox for only Gears of War? And there's nothing. There's really, like, people want to say that this is like a console war. No, I'm a Sony pony. Like everybody called it Kobe in that video. Kobe, you got like 4,000 dislikes in that video, huh?
Try 5.2, buddy.
5,200.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you said was true. They don't have anything to, like, what are we gonna play? FIFA 2021? Like, what's really in the Xbox category?
Well, I still don't understand the backlash on that video. I literally don't get it. And I read those comments. They don't like hurt my feelings or anything. I think people think that I am like sad that the video is negative. It's I don't understand. I'm like, what? How is this? And also, I mean, the other thing is people like disliked, bro. And I'm like, yeah, even though you dislike, you still watch an ad in front of the video. So who really wins? Anyways, I just don't understand. What did I say that was so controversial and wrong? Like,
it's just that you're literally saying complete facts. Like, I'm not saying that, like, that's, people can say like the Xbox has games and like people can support Xbox all they want, but just realistically, PlayStation has a better catalog. They obliterated them in the last console war. Like, there's the last generation was all PlayStation. Like, what did Xbox do in this generation? What did they do? What games? What did they have?
Not a damn thing. You played Halo Wars 2.
What game won Game of the Year 2018? A PlayStation exclusive. God of War.
I mean,
games were nominated for Game of the Year 2018? PlayStation exclusives. 2019 PlayStation exclusives. Death Stranding. Like, all these crazy titles you see making heavy-hitting waves and articles talking about how encapsulating they are and games you must play. Most of the time, it's PlayStation exclusives. And Xbox, like you've said, and it's just not like bias or anything, it's just a fact. Like, they haven't done anything encapsulating enough to compete with that market. And that's, that's kind of their fault, but also they're going in a different direction from Sony, but it's not a direction that will be competing with them in a fair way. They're not really on that level, and that's, sad to see, but it's the truth. And it's just kind of, how things are with that business model versus what Sony's business model is.
Yeah. I was about to ask if like that Silent Hill PT thing that Kojima made that one day, was that also for PlayStation only? Because I don't remember that.
It was a demo on PlayStation only, I think, and maybe PC.
Well, that also hit a lot of people. Like, there was a lot of people that just like wanted to get the PlayStation just to play the PT. Like,
I was one of them too. I was like, what is this? Like, oh my God, Silent Hill's like, whoa, that's nuts. And yeah, because these experiences not only are great for fans, but they also push the brand that they want to try and support even further. Like, why do you think there's so many PlayStation dedicated channels nowadays, or PlayStation news websites, Push Square or PlayStation Lifestyle, like all these related media sources that are reporting on nothing but Sony games? And it's just because of the experiences that they have are so high quality compared to anything else that we've seen so far. And it's crazy to think that people are trying to claim like there's no competition, there's no clear winner. Like, yes, there is. You're blind. Sorry, but it's a fact.
And here, one of the comments from my video, this one has 223 likes. Most of them have more. One of them said, "I came here to see what this person had to say. Sadly, I don't think he's knowledgeable about how Xbox is changing." Yes, they're changing. Their change is we're going to be user friendly. We don't like exclusives. Exclusives are bad. We don't. What he doesn't realize is that exclusives have been phenomenal for the industry. Objectively speaking, as we said, a lot of the best games we've gotten are exclusives. So yes, on the surface level, when I look at a game like Batman, I don't want it to be exclusive to one game, but that is or to one console. But that is not to say that exclusives have not been a net positive to the industry, because as we've noted, Spider-Man PS4, Uncharted, these other games couldn't exist without Sony's vested interest in making them great. Whereas, as we've mentioned, with Activision and EA and other purely game publishers, they do not have the same incentive to make these games the best video games ever made. They just have an incentive to poop them out, shit them out, fucking make money on the back end, and that's what they're doing. Okay? So that's really where the difference is. And the direction that they're taking is not the best for their brand. It's going to cause them to get absolutely obliterated by Sony, because they can say, like if you've seen, Phil Spencer's been throwing shade at Sony repeatedly, in interviews,
cringe.
repeatedly. It's cringe because he's like, we don't believe in cutting players off, so we're going to have all of our Xbox games. They're going to be on both Xbox One and Series X. And it's like, okay, dude, that's nice and all. One problem is no one even owns an Xbox One. And secondly, I mean, I do, but pretty much nobody does. And well, the thing is too, is I have like the Kinect version, like the $500 one from like launch, the fucking gigantic, VCR player looking thing. And he is totally delusional. He literally thinks that, we're going to have so much backwards compatibility for us. It's not about the console. It's about the games. And it's, as I said, there's no games to play. There's nothing I'm looking forward to. Their showcase was showing these weird, like, now some of them looked okay. I wouldn't say that Halo looked terrible. It's just I'm not rushing out to go buy an Xbox to play Halo Infinite. That's all I'm saying. And certainly you can have that holier than thou attitude of like, we don't believe in exclusives. They're just not fair. They're not good. We don't like, and as I pointed out in the video, and people are getting triggered about this, I'm just rehashing the same exact things I said in the video that caused me to get dislike bombed. So it's coming again in this podcast. We'll see.
I got a question though. Is that what actually said though? Is there like, are they really going to put the Series X games backwards compatible for Xbox One?
Yes. So yeah, Halo Infinite is going to be on Xbox One. Okay, so why there's no reason. X? There's no reason. There's no reason.
I don't get it. I don't know why you're getting hate. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's totally brain dead marketing and business decisions. Not only that, it holds back the studios. They don't even realize that they're doing it, but the studios can. The reason Halo Infinite graphics don't look good, and they said, we're trying to return to the original art style from Halo 2. That's all BS. The real reason the graphics look shitty is because they know from the beginning that the game has to work on Xbox One. They've been told all of our games are backwards compatible. This is not a next-gen game. It is a last-gen game that will be slightly revved up for next-gen. There's a big difference. There's a difference between making a game on the PS5 and then making and it being accessible for PS4 and vice versa. They are making an Xbox One game that has to run and work on Xbox One fully. It has to have, smooth fidelity and all of that. And they also have to do that on Xbox Series X. That, of course, is holding them back. If they had just made a game that is purely a next-gen game, what they could have done with the graphics, the gameplay, the frame rate, all that would be way, way higher than what they're limited with by this move. So it's terrible in multiple ways. It's terrible from a marketing angle. It's terrible from a games angle. It's terrible just all in all. So that's my take.
The console war. So
it's so funny because I literally said, I do not care about the console war. What do I have to say? I can't prove to you I don't. I'm just telling you. I know what I'm the only person in my thoughts. I'm the only one that knows what I actually believe. I know for a fact I do not have any strong brand loyalty to PlayStation or Xbox. I just don't. I've owned 360, I own PS3, I owned Xbox One, I owned PS4. I don't care. And for me to give objective analysis, what I believe to be objective analysis of the landscape of the industry, how things are evolving, how Xbox is faring, is going to fare to the PS5, and just call balls and strikes on it. It's like Sony pony. And it's like, what are you talking about? I just said that I don't care. They're like, well, you say you don't care, but you do, and you don't even know it. And I'm like, no, I really don't. But okay, dude, whatever.
So all it is though, because you were it's like just your personal preference, and that's it. It's simple as that.
What'd you say, Marcel? What'd you say, Marcel?
You were literally so calm and collective, and not even like trying to bash Xbox.
Exactly.
It was just so bizarre because I was like, okay, this video has like 800 dislikes and 1,000 likes. I'm like, okay, that just happened. It was like the first day or like the second day, and I came back the next day, it has like 3,000 dislikes. I'm like, what did you say? And I watched it again. It's like you didn't say anything wrong at all. You were like,
yeah, quote,
objective you could be.
I thought so too. And there's this comment, quote, the console war is stupid, end quote, which is what I said. And quote, I'm not a fanboy, end quote, to then immediately turn into a fanboy. And what did I do to fanboy saying that Sony is better exclusive, saying that Sony is better games?
That whole statement, like, how does that connect to that? What, like, okay, it's just crazy.
I was talking about
Sony has better games, saying it's gonna fare better versus or it's not gonna Series X is gonna get destroyed by PS5. That's not fanboying. And people like I don't know if they're just like young. I don't know if it was all like 12-year-olds that were like basically finding this video through the YouTube search bar, but they lack any form of like common sense to think about this objectively. The most liked comment says, quote, I'm not a fanboy, end quote, which is what I said. And then fanboys over the PS5 the whole video. The reason I'm fanboying over the PS5 is because it's better and I'm more excited for it. And there's more games that I'm excited for. That's not fanboying. That's not saying that I'm biased one way. And that's the that's the inclination. When you say fanboy, I am a fanboy for Batman. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter what they show on August 22nd. I'm still going to freak out and I'm still going to love it no matter what. That is fanboying. Fanboying is blind love. If PS5 fucked up tomorrow, I would criticize them. Yeah. So that is how you know it's not fanboying. You don't see like I don't have a PlayStation tattoo. I don't have like PlayStation. Well, you can't see like I'm not a fanboy for PlayStation in any way. I don't have PlayStation T-shirts. I'm not like some simp for PlayStation. So I just don't understand.
I have your T-shirt. Am I a fanboy of you?
I think a better phrase is a simp. You're a part of the simp mafia.
Oh yeah,
that's how you say it.
Simp mafia. I'm apparently since I'm critical towards Avengers, my audience apparently called me a spider simp. So I'm.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
See, you never win. Like if you're a fanboy and you praise everything, you're like, you're a fanboy, you're a shill. And then if you're critical, they're like, oh, well, you're just doing that. So here's the thing. Here's a trend we're noticing across both Evan, your content, and my content. Basically, malice is assigned to your opinions, or not even malice, but like averse reasoning as to why you think that way. So you can't just not like something because you don't like it, and you can't just like something because you like it. There's some ulterior motive in your head that you don't even know about. That's the thing where they get you. Is I say I'm not a Sony fan, they're like, yes you are, you don't even know it. And so that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter what you say if there's always that like averse sort of malintention assigned to you, and it's like, well, the reason he doesn't like Avengers is because he's just a blind insomniac fanboy and he loves Spider-Man, and that's the reason that you don't like it. You see, it's not because the game just doesn't look all that good. It's because you have like this weird hatred towards Square Enix, and you have this affinity for Insomniac that is unhealthy, and you want everything else to fail because you love Insomniac that much, which of course is not true. But
I was exposed online because I'm mad at Avengers because Spider-Man isn't playable in the game. You got
yeah.
Marcel saw that,
yeah, he literally said, yeah, you don't like this game because Spider-Man's not exposed. Like I felt the same way when The Last of Us Part 2 was getting leaked and whatnot when I was coming out. Like, okay, guys, we could calm down. We see the leaks, but how about we just wait for the context? And I got called a cuck. I got called so many things for just saying why don't we just wait to see the full extent of what's happening within the video game?
And the thing is, the most controversial creative choices that they made were some of the most successful. Like even people, when people played that at first, they were pissed. Spoiler warning for The Last of Us 2 if you haven't played it. People were pissed when Joel died, but looking back on it, creatively, it probably was the best thing for the story, like to advance the story and the narrative, even though it was, of course, unpopular. But those things that were really controversial, some of them ended up being blessings in disguise, so to speak.
Literally, the trans thing that everybody was freaking out about literally was one of the best characters in the game. He literally took most people by surprise when you actually get to see what he's going through within his own clan. So I don't know. Most of the drama that happened was, it is like the Avengers game where it's just like, oh, if you're critical, it's because you have another bias, or if you do like this, then it's because you're a SJW, or you're a SJW who just wants to see women kill men with golf clubs, overly buff women bashing old men with golf clubs. We just love it, SJW style. I don't know. I thought the whole Neil Druckmann thing, and I can see where people go for that, but there's politics in everything. People freak out over everything.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, if you would have to look at the console war in general, how would you actually it's not like anything really is worth arguing about for the console war, but how would you improve Xbox? Like, how, besides just giving it exclusives, like how would you actually make it make Microsoft a little bit more a betting horse?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just very interesting, and it's like the bland fanboyism is absurd, and people assuming that there's some fanboy stuff going on, and the point that you say anything, it's just so ridiculous. So it's just annoying. But now this episode's gonna get dislike bombed, so that's cool. It probably won't, because it's like this is more for like people that are big fans of us as opposed to just like casual listeners. Whereas with that other one, it literally just got caught in the algorithm, and then it started suggesting it to people. So then but now I actually unironically
PlayStation versus Xbox. Ooh.
I unironically use the phrase Xbots now, because frankly, I read some of those comments. Y'all were just straight Xbots. Literally, you guys are just simping for Xbox, period. Which is what you accuse me of doing for Sony, which is not true. But they're just like, no, Halo Infinite's going to be the best game ever made. Can't you see? And it's like, no, I really can't. But yeah.
There where it's just like, oh, you're shoving politics into our throats, but then they shove politics into yours.
Exactly.
It's always hypocrisy.
Yep.
You got caught because you put Xbox is already losing the console war, and so Xbox were just like, okay, what did this guy say? They probably didn't watch the
He knows too much.
Yeah, the Xbots were not happy, but it's okay, it happens.
Honestly, I used to be an Xbox. I thought the PlayStation was horrible. The PlayStation 3 was garbage because they always got
really
hacked. Like that was my mind frame.
They did. See, that's the thing is, back in the day when I had my PS3, I was like, damn, Xbox gets that Call of Duty DLC 1 month early. Yeah, exactly. Damn, we played. PSN just went down for like fucking 4 months. Remember when that happened? That was so stupid. And granted, PSN was free, and you had to pay for Xbox, and that was one reason that I was like, ha, Xbots, we don't have to pay over here. And then it went down for like a month and got hacked, and we're like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, but yeah, it's very interesting to see. I mean, I think that Series X is going to get absolutely fucking obliterated by PS5. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I really, really do. I think it's going to be worse.
For the next one, what do you think they should do for the Xbox Series fucking XX or whatever the hell this is going to be?
It all comes down.
They're gonna call it the Triple X, but
like exclusives, yeah. But should they just get rid of fucking Phil Spencer?
Yes,
well,
please.
Spencer, yeah, probably so. He's delusional. I don't know what's going on with his head or something. He seems a little out there and a little disconnected from what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he really
understand what the fans really are looking for, which is, yeah, multiplayer games are fine. Like having Gears of War and Halo once a generation is okay. But what else can you really bring?
Exactly.
Phil Spencer doesn't bring anything. He's not.
If
He's
that's
not
all you do, there
considering
won't
it.
be enough room for ingenuity, and that's sad.
Exactly. And that's what I've always noticed is that PlayStation games are always called, the revolutionary games that people actually draw from, and Xbox just never draws from it. Like once you see God of War, like The Last of Us heavily inspired God of War, and if those games didn't exist, or if The Last of Us didn't exist, we would have gotten God of War, and that's like those are some of the two best games ever created. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's always the Sony games that inspired other Sony games. Why shouldn't the Sony games also inspire some Xbox shit?
It's true.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean by the exclusives move the industry forward. Exactly like what you're saying is without The Last of Us, without God of War, which certainly would not have been as good as they were under something like Activision. Now, I will say, Warner Brothers is actually very good at quality control. That's both a downside and an upside because the downside is that they've canceled a lot of games. Yeah. But WB does have very good quality control. Like they will not release games that are shitty, which is very interesting. Now, they obviously had a bit of a lapse when it came to the PC port of Arkham Knight, but Arkham Knight was a high quality game, and Arkham City was really good. And even when you look at like Skyrim and other games like that, they've been quite good as well. Skyrim, Shadow of Mordor. That's what I meant. Yeah. Shadow of War. Yeah. So, and that's the thing when these games are first party published, there is way more quality control because think back to 2017 and 2018, every single PlayStation ad you saw had Spider-Man in it. It's integral to the push. And with Xbox, it's the same thing with Halo. They show Halo, but the difference is Halo is not what it used to be. Halo is not that like the top dog FPS with a thriving competitive scene with like known to have incredibly fun public matches and all that. And they're doing some good things. Okay, like I'll give them credit. They just announced that Halo Infinite is actually going to be free to play multiplayer. So you pay for the single player, but it's multiplayer is free to play, which I think is very interesting and a very bold and strong creative choice. And we'll have to see. Have to see if it
too, right? Like that's crazy.
I don't know. Is that true?
I think they said so. Because they're trying to make sure that the Xbox can run it the best compared to anything else, but I don't know how far that will go in terms of effectiveness of quality.
Right.
Something interesting I realized? The weaker console and the cheaper console won every single console gen. You can go back to PS2. It's true. PS4 versus Series X, and like well, hold up. I guess Xbox One was weaker and it lost.
360 I feel like the Xbox 360 definitely won the console generation, and then the last.
It did. And like, PS3 was more expensive, and it was the better console.
Right.
And,
but 360
won. 360 definitely won because of Call of Duty. I feel like they won because of Call of Duty and Halo. Like mainly Call of Duty because dude, I was like 13 or like 12 when Black Ops 2 and shit was coming out. Black Ops 1, they're just like, yeah, you have to have the Xbox to get the DLC first. Of course, I'm gonna get the fucking goddamn Xbox 360. But like the PlayStation 3 didn't have anything except like Uncharted and The Last of Us, and then like a few other like small exclusives that were they were good, but
Infamous and
blew it out of the water.
Killzone, all these but at the time they weren't as well known as they are now, so back then it was just kind of getting the ground going, but now they're like all these well-known franchises that have like multi-selling games a year. But
what happened was with the Last of Us, that came out the end of the PlayStation 3 generation, and then they remastered it. So like everybody from the PlayStation 3 era were like, "Oh, this is fucking the masterpiece of the generation." And then they remastered it for the next generation. So it's like, "Oh, well, why don't I just buy it again?" Pretty good marketing strategy.
And the thing is, you can look back across, across that generation, across several generations. And consistently, Xbox has been more of a first-person shooter crowd that really enjoys Xbox, whereas PlayStation has had more of a focus on single-player games. The main difference that's happened, I've noticed, is that there has been a shift in gaming culture away from shooter games towards more story games. Right. And these impactful, strong story games, I think it really began, honestly, as early as The Walking Dead Season 1 by Telltale, where that game took the world by storm. even though it basically has very little gameplay. And then after that, of course, you got into The Last of Us and you got into these other games, and that basically parallels very closely the decline of Call of Duty, the decline of Halo, Gears of War. All of these franchises have been in decline, and there's been a bit of a resurgence with the what's it called, Battle Royale type of games.
Oh boy,
slight resurgence, but not really. Like still most of the hype.
Like this, I want to consider like the same type of style, because the battle royales are like, you get like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 for like the bold and fucking epic story, right? Like, oh yeah, they're gonna nuke something, and then you would play the multiplayer just to fucking call out some kids that are shitting on you, and then you would go to like I completely forgot where I was gonna go with that.
They're more the esports centric types of divisions.
And then
the battle, really competitive online shooters and all this stuff, but they're which ones sell the most? Like, oh, these single player AAA experiences from these high quality developers that focus on story and characters and engaging open worlds and just fun gameplay, not just competitive things that can be extracted for the most amount of money, but just what plays the best and what feels the most fun.
Have you played Horizon Zero Dawn?
Yes.
I haven't. I'm learning it right now. It's almost done. I'm getting ready.
It's great. The only main PlayStation 4 exclusive I haven't played is The Last of Us Part 2, because I'm not digging the story. But everything else I've played, and they're great. Yeah. Spider-Man's my favorite, obviously, but they're all fantastic.
Wait, so you've never played it?
Last of Us Part 2.
Do you own it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
I played all the other ones.
You just had heard a little bit about the story, and you were like, not interested.
I got leaked. I got spoiled through the leaks by accident, and I thought, there's no way this is true. And then it was. I'm like, are you kidding me? So then I just didn't waste my time. And then I saw a full playthrough of it online through a YouTube video. I'm like,
oh, you did? Okay.
Spend money on it. I didn't really care for it.
Gameplay's worth it. I would say the gameplay is definitely worth it.
For sure. The game itself is probably the best looking game I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's gorgeous. And the gameplay is obviously raw and intense and vivid and engaging.
I think the gameplay elevates the stories, so I say give it a chance.
Yeah, like, you're immersed more. Right, exactly. Yeah. You can't connect as well as you would watching it versus playing it, but for the story that I saw, I just really didn't feel like...
You have to have all the Xbox exclusives, bro. You are like the number one.
I have all the Halos, all the Crackdowns, all the Gears of Wars.
All the Crackdowns.
My love. Oh boy.
That was a thing. That was one of their exclusives that they thought they could bank on with fucking what's his name?
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews. I should know that I'm black. Yeah, that was a bomb too.
He got his paycheck and then dipped. He was out. I'm undone.
Oh yeah. He fucking advertised it for like half a second.
And then he went home and played on his PlayStation.
That's probably exactly what happened. Yeah, I thought the last generation, the console war was actually funny as hell, because Xbox was just getting obliterated at every turn. The first E3 they announced, like, what are they doing?
It was an L from the beginning. And that's the thing. They were just like clueless. They're like, everyone wants a Kinect, and they tried to build this whole thing and remember they tried to do those like Kinect games. They would show at E3 in like 2013 where you like dance in front of the camera and shit. And it's like, what are you doing here? Now, the one thing I did like is when you would like sit down and the camera would recognize your face and it would log in. That's the only thing I use the camera for, though.
I think that's creepy as fuck.
See, there are cool things they could have done with that, though. Like, they could have had video chat with party chat. They could have implemented that. Yeah. They could have done, I don't know, like implemented some system for you to do like dual commentaries or like podcasts with your friends and like shit like that. They could have really used the Kinect. Like, if you're gonna go all in and force people to buy it, then at least use it more than having these goofy games. And I guess they did a little bit where you could be like, hey, Xbox and whatnot. That was actually cool. I like that. And you could say, Xbox, record that. And these other things were good steps, but they just didn't take it far enough. If you're going to mandate that we have the Kinect, you really need to go all in and add lots of utility to be like
an OnlyFans feature for like women. You know how many women would have bought the fucking Xbox One if there was an OnlyFans feature where you could just answer the goddamn Kinect in front of an audience of Xbox users. Are you kidding me?
Bro, link the Xbox to your Patreon account. Instant money.
That's perfect.
And I did like how you could switch from cable to your games, and you could like I remember you could watch sports and set it up with your cable and use it as like a DVR box. There were some good things about the Xbox One. It was just, there wasn't enough games to be interesting, and they made a lot of really bad choices at the beginning. So
yeah, it wasn't, which is weird because they tried to make it consumer friendly, but it was like unfriendly to all consumers. They tried to promote like what it was a multimedia device. When in reality, It should have just been a gaming device, which is what people wanted. And then that was the whole bad thing at launch is that, well, games, I think they said something like you have to pay extra for games or something on the Xbox One or whatever. And then they promoted that whole Cortana thing, which was just failing at the start. Like, oh, your Xbox One will be Cortana from Halo. So get that for Halo. Like, it was so bad.
That's so stupid.
It was all
They
weird.
still have that. They still have that.
So dumb. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's bad.
All right. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap it up if you guys are cool with that.
Of course. Sorry,
Sweet.
my face
Thank you.
cam cut out. That's why I just had my
you're
profile picture here, Toby's face.
No, you're good. You hit your camera on most of the time. We'll accept it. Okay, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this video, of course, as I said at the beginning, and just in case you didn't do it, like the video, subscribe. We're trying to get this channel to 1,000 subs and trying to get our views up and all that. So any support is greatly, greatly appreciated. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.